Hello. Hey, it's Chad from Chad Talks Facts here. Yeah, well, I'm here to tell you that I have some factual information about the Switch 2. You're about to see it in the video, and the video is just going to be a comparison. Now, don't be alarmed or don't be scared. I'm not telling you to buy it or not buy it. I'm not going to do a review or tell you it's bad or good. This is simply a comparison to some of my favorite handheld consoles, and I'm pretty much a really good authority on this stuff, so you should listen to what I say. And if you don't, something's wrong with you. But anyway, please enjoy the video, and please like and subscribe if you do. It helps a lot. I need the engagement because the engagement drives the views in a way or something like that. Check out the video. Welcome to the channel. This is Chad from Chad Talks Facts because my name is Chad, so that's the name of the channel. Today we're here to discuss the Nintendo Switch 2 and its size and compare it to the Steam Deck OLED and the Odin 2, two of my favorite handhelds. Now, you will find out which one I find the best later on. But for now, we're here to discuss the size and compare it and see what people might find the most comfortable to hold in their hands. Not that that's the only thing you consider, but this is something you do consider when you pick up a handheld console. Now, starting with the Switch 2, which is on. My Steam Deck is dead. Starting with the Switch 2, which is on. Nice, big, beautiful screen. You compare that screen just to the screen of the Steam Deck OLED. It's bigger than the entire Steam Deck OLED, including the borders, which is pretty phenomenal if you ask me. It's a really big and nice screen. It's very bright. And on top of being really bright, let me focus the camera in here a little bit. On top of it being bright, it's very clear. It's clear. It's distinct. The colors are distinct. It's a beautiful screen. It's 120 hertz. You can't tell because I'm filming at 24p, cinema p, but currently it runs 120 hertz in some games, variable refresh rate. It's very smooth. It's a very nice screen. It's a really nice screen, especially if you want to sit back on the couch and just chill and play some of your older Switch games upscaled to 1080p with a baseline frame rate of 30 frames per second. It seems like for every backwards compatible game, because what's happening is the Switch 2 is emulating the Switch 1, and it's adding some sort of link layer that doesn't allow it to go lower than a certain frame rate. It uses some of the hardware to sustain the frame rate through the emulation protocol. However, it also doesn't tell it to take advantage of the new hardware without what seems like a binary or some sort of executable code in order to tell the Switch 2, hey, pump this up and use all of our power. So right now, we currently have the Switch 2 in our hands. We're going to do a Joy-Con comparison to the controls on the other two. The Joy-Cons, yeah, they do come off, of course. The Joy-Cons are quite light, but heavier than the first ones. That are more durable, and they are bigger, which I do enjoy. You have this little part here that you pull on, and that I guess it weakens the magnet. I didn't really do a deep dive in it, but you're able to pull the Joy-Con off the console. It's a bigger Joy-Con. The buttons are bigger than the original Switch Joy-Con, which is much better for people like myself with bigger hands, and it feels better in the hand. They have this matte plastic finish. It's a beautiful finish, almost like a speckled. You see the little speckles in there. I don't know if I can get that, but it is a fingerprint magnet and it is a dust magnet. I will say that. Other than that, though, these Joy-Cons are pretty comfortable, not ergonomic, as some may say and think. Just because I like the console doesn't mean it's not without its critiques, and that is one of the major critiques I have with the Switch 2. The Steam Deck obviously is a much bigger console. However, the grips on the side, the ergonomic grips, make up for the fact that it is a little bit larger. I'd rather have a little bump or a hump in order to fit the ergonomics of my hand and let my hand not be fatigued quickly. I do have a major surgery I had, a major arm injury, so it does help when a system has ergonomics. So I am kind of an authority on what is comfortable, and this is one of the most comfortable things ever. The haptic touch pads, these are perfectly placed. The buttons are a bit small, but it's really good that they're on the very outside. Because of the fact that they're on the outside, it makes them very easy to reach when I have to go too far. And the D-pad being here is absolutely amazing. It's one of the smartest designs I've ever seen because you don't get any fatigue from trying to do the down D-pad, which we'll discuss in a little bit. Let's take that to the Odin. As a matter of fact, that's a good first place to start. My Odin's actually on, so we can start there. You don't have to see my password, but all right, sorry about that. So here we have the Odin, the Iron Odin. It's a good console. It's one of my favorite Android handheld consoles. I play a lot of emulators, if you couldn't tell. I also play a lot of Android standard games. So let's go. I guess we can go with Dead Cells or Streets of Rage 4. Let's start with Streets of Rage 4. And playing this feels very good. Now, I am not a fan, I will say. I've never been a fan of the... Let me just turn this down a little bit. I apologize. But with all that aside, let's get to what I'm talking about here as far as controls go. So playing Streets of Rage is not, not a task at all. Simply because it's super duper easy. And by the way, guys, it doesn't look this bad. This is the pixel filter. You see it's moving fast. The game is quick. It's not easy. It's not hard to do moves simply because the D-pad is absolutely beautiful. You can do all your combos and moves appropriately. You can do your juggles. You can do, your dodges if you like to run dodge in this game. You can do a lot of stuff with this D-pad because it's extremely comfortable. It also has a very ergonomic bump, and it feels very good in the hands, especially for a smaller console. You're going to need something that's going to be comfortable. I tend to put my middle fingers back here in the little indents, which is perfect, and then wrap around, or I can hold the entire thing, and I can play this thing forever with little to no fatigue, literally, and it's super light. Super light. Taking it back to the Switch 2, though, there are some concerns. One of the main concerns is that the speakers are downward facing, and those speakers do produce sound, but not the greatest sound. Let's do a little test with Mario Kart World. And while it's loud enough for you to hear and loud enough for you to play a game, it certainly isn't loud enough to cause a stir or sound immersed in the game at all. Not that loud. The music is kind of good. Sounds kind of good on here. Not too overwhelming. But the main point is that it's not super loud, even at max volume. Furthermore, the ergonomics, like I was discussing earlier, just not great on the Joy-Cons, okay? It's just completely flat. And while, yeah, some people might like that, I really can't get down with that. And I think the majority of people would hate that. But it's not overwhelmingly uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable enough. One of the other things I brought up was the D-pad. And this C button style D-pad is still really, really annoying. Listen, I understand it stops some things from happening. It's almost nearly impossible to play fighting games without making a mistake once or twice. But the lack of adding a D-pad in order to mitigate the need for buying a second controller is kind of dumb in my opinion. But hey, listen, Nintendo still made a great console. It's just because I think it's great doesn't mean I don't have my gripes. These are not Hall effect sticks, and that's a little strange. I hope they're not prone to stick drift. I haven't had any problems yet, but it's only been a couple of days, so we still have time to test that out. Now, just recapping the speakers on the Steam Deck. The speakers on the Steam Deck are quite loud. Unfortunately, mine is dead right now, but that's okay. The speakers get quite loud, you can trust me, and the D-pad placement is completely different, like I said earlier in the video. So this D-pad placement is pretty phenomenal. On top of the D-pad placement being phenomenal, the button placement is phenomenal, like I said before, in the ergonomics. Standard fare with the slots, once again, like I said, all these things are pretty much standard fare with the slots that they have in different ways and configurations, but along the top and the bottom, in order to not have them on the sides or have them get in the way while you have gameplay going on. Now, before people ask or say something and to say, hey, you didn't do a fair test, I'm going to do a sound test with the Iron Odin. The volume, as you can see, just want you to see that it's all the way up, and this thing gets super loud, especially with those front-facing speakers. They're kind of bassy too here. So I do kind of wish Nintendo did something different with the speakers, but the speakers do not detract from the overall experience too much. It's just something that is noticeable, and if it's going to bother you, that may be a decision for you to take into consideration. Once again, this isn't a video to let you know what to buy. It's just letting you know what's out in the market and how the Switch 2 compares to it. All right, now moving on to pocketability. Listen, none of these are really pocketable besides maybe the Odin, but the Odin 2 is kind of pocketable, but I wouldn't really put this in your pocket. So let's talk about baggable. This goes in your bag super easy. Any bag you have, it's just gonna slip in there. You can pull it out and play when you need to. It's pretty cool. Now, then you have the Switch 2. The Switch 2, you can actually just pop the Joy-Cons off if you want. Make it like a tablet, separate it, put it in your bag. Pretty simple, and it's rather light. Pretty baggable, I would say. The Steam Deck OLED, however, is a brick that you can beat someone to death with, and you don't want to do that. So I wouldn't put this in your bag per se. It's still a good device, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly not baggable, I would say. As a matter of fact, it's literally classified as a weapon, I think, by the government. It's not. I'm just kidding. The one feature, however, that the Switch 2 has that the others don't is the kickstand that's in the back that I'm using right now. And if you pair this with a controller, With this bigger screen, it is absolutely reasonable to play video games like this. You can play a full game of Mario Kart, Fortnite, anything you want. Yeah, let's go! But playing Switch 2 is completely viable now if you use the controller, any controller, third-party controller, or the Switch 2 Pro controller, and the kickstand, because the kickstand has a beautiful angle and it's much more sturdy. It's actually really wonderful to use when you're playing video games. So there you go. I'm just giving you a quick rundown, a quick comparison. I'm not telling you what to buy or where you should go with your decision. Basically, just wanted to let you know that the Switch is a pretty good design. Now, it's not without its flaws, which you would expect anyway coming from a flagship console. They're going to do things really, really right, and they're going to do some things kind of wrong. But overall, I think it's a great console, and they did a great job. You should check it out ergonomically. It's great. Where the speakers are placed, not too great. The speaker sound, not too great. Ergonomically playing video games, as in the controller grips, the Joy-Cons, not the greatest. Steam Deck is really good. Odin 2 is absolutely wonderful. It's a smash. It's a knockout. They should really base the Switch 2 Lite off the Odin 2, I believe. But overall, I think the Switch 2 is a formidable console when it comes to design, ergonomics, the screen, and the sound is okay. It's not going to detract from the experience too much. Well, anyway, thanks for watching the video. And remember, Chad only talks facts. Like and subscribe. And peace out to Hyrule.